Let me introduce myself before we go forward. Right, I am Ronak, and I am working as a customer success architect in AppViewX. All right, I see more people joining in. Okay, so I've been working here since last 3.5 years with an overall experience of 9 years. So I've been dealing with automation products. I've been dealing with ADCs. I've been dealing with firewalls. Any kind of network devices, certificates. I've been dealing my entire career. So what I'm going to present today is how do we solve a problem of DevNetOps, and how do we exactly get to a point where we automate everything, reduce the time, and how does AppUX help in all of this, right? This is what we are gonna cover today. So let me get started. I'll go on share my screen. I have a quick presentation to show all of you. All right, so we'll start with the ADC lifecycle automation, right? And anyone has any questions, please put in the QA, and we will take it up towards the end of the session. You can put as many questions as you want, and I'll try to answer all of them today. All right, so this is our main concern here, right? Problems faced by the DevNetOps. Like, if you look at it, what exactly are the problems that is faced by the DevNetOps team or the development team board? What exactly do we face today? So there is always on towards the right of the screen, if you see that diagram, there was always manual process involved, a lot of time wasted in doing configurations on the F5 devices, or rather any ADC device. Then there is a DNS IPAM requirements where I have to go figure out what my IP address is. Then I have to create a load balancer, put a certificate on it, then put on firewall rules on the WAF side, and then then the visibility needs to be provided. Then there can be a self-servicing problem that as a user I'm not able to go to the LB teams. I have to go tell them that, hey, I want to create a load balancer, and they come back with 10 different questions, too many back and forth. And that's when we get frustrated and the time increases, right? So here's the problem. Here are all the problems listed, right, that we have seen as a company. So that is what we are trying to solve, right? So the first one, of course, is the need for centralized lifecycle management and orchestration of all the ADCs across all the software-defined fabrics with a role-based access control. So if I should have access to it or I should not have access to it, basically an authorization perspective, that is where AppViewX can help you. I'll show all how we can, but these are the problems that we generally face, right? Consistent application delivery solution across hybrid cloud deployment. Now, there is a scenario today where all our ADCs are on different clouds versions, different. Maybe some of them are on-prem, some of them are on cloud. So this is all are the problems that we face, right? So there is obviously a need for an app-centric visibility to kind of do the configuration for the teams. And then there is a problem where we automate the manual configurational changes. We have to do a lot of manual work. There's no streamlining of processes, right? All these, and that increases our OpEx cost. Then there is an infrastructure complexity for the app team. We don't understand what exactly we need to do. Do I need to go on an F5? Do I need to go somewhere else? Put what configuration do I need to put? Accelerated application provisioning with the API first approach is the need of the hour. So these are the problems that we generally face. Now, what is the ADC plus solution, right? That we want to discuss today? What exactly do we do? How can AppUX help, right? So AppUX, from an ADC perspective, the first and foremost thing it does is an orchestration, right? It orchestrate all of your network devices, or rather I would say ADC devices, put them in a single inventorized solution, across hybrid cloud deployments, across on-prem deployments, whatever you have. AppUX will integrate to it, take the configuration, or rather take the device, onboard it to AppViewX, and that's it. That's where your automation starts, right? So you get a centralized view into the application delivery of the app teams, and the NetOps will get a centralized view. Everyone can have their own view of WIPs, their own view of, what is going on in their devices. Everything can be customized based on who is looking into it, right? If I am an application owner one and someone is an application owner two, they will see exactly their own application, right? They will not be able to see my app. You will not be able to see my application configuration. I will not be able to see your application configuration. What happens with that? That gives us the capability to give you a self-service or an automation of an application and more security towards the application, right? That is where AppViewX, RBAC or role-based access control comes in. Now there is a lot of integration with all the hybrid cloud that I've told before. Then there is a GitOps, DevOps integration, API orchestration, and then AppViewX also gives you the event-driven automation and remediation. Now, if you look at the diagram on the right hand side, right, orchestration, now alerts and remediate, right? So we can automate what when do we get an alert if there is an issue with our application, if the traffic is going high, when is it going high, why is it going high, right? All those alerts AppUX will give you. It will give you a centralized management platform. Then it will help you automate everything so that there is a zero touch provisioning. You don't have to go to the devices, put the configuration, know what the device should be, self service, get the application team to have that self service, or whoever is wants to create a WIP, get them self service visibility, and also monitor the application health of each of the devices, right? So if you look at the diagram on the top, on the right bottom, all the clouds like AWS cloud, Azure cloud, Google cloud, or any private cloud can be integrated along with on-prem as well. All right. So now going into the depth of how AppUX can help, right? So AppUX can provide you, the first and foremost thing is a DIY capability, right? That is your self-service capability. That basically means that even if you do not have the expertise to go to the end device, do a configuration change, put in the configuration, it's all complex. You get a simple form. In AppUX, you will get a simple form that whoever needs to fill can fill in and click on a button called submit. That's pretty much it. That's the zero touch provisioning that we are providing. You can enable your end servers, you can disable the servers, you can rotate the servers, you can say transfer all the load to one server and let the other server run. You can put in new configuration, all of this without even going to the device. And of course, being with a role based access control, so that you can make changes to whatever you really want to make changes on. Then the third thing comes here is the traffic management, right? Primary and DR data center setup, right? So you get high availability. There is always a high availability on AppUX, right? In that sense, wherein if your primary server goes down, your application is up and running, you can do whatever you want, yeah, with your services, right? And then of course, blue green swing, canary application deployment. So if you really want to deploy an application to the end device, you want to say, so in an application deployment, the steps that are involved most of the time is, okay, I want a ticket. That is the most important thing, right? I'll open a change ticket. Someone needs to approve that change ticket. When the approval is done, then you need to go to the DNS team, then you get the IP address, then you go to the load balancer team, where you say that this is my IP address, please put this in, right, as an application. So all of this, deployment end to end, from creating a ticket. If the ticket is approved, the next steps are taken in, application is set up, and an email goes out to the stakeholders, saying that the application is up and running, and AppUX will go and close the ticket. So the full end-to-end automation can be achieved using AppUX. That's your self-service capability. Now, the second thing that AppUX helps in is visibility and insight from a single console. right? It is very app centric, based on role based access control. You get an insight to monitor and troubleshoot the application services. You get the capability, even if you're not aware of the application, or rather you're not aware of what the server can do and cannot do. Just a right click, enable the server. Just a right click, disable the server, right? Reduces a lot of time going back to the network team saying, hey, can you disable the server? I need to test the traffic, right? And then proactive analysis of the F5 health farm. So it gives you a real time data of if your CPU is high, if your memory is high. You can just provide the data back to the it is based on application also. If your application CPU is going high, it can provide you the data, and you can give the data back to the network team saying this is the problem, and the resolution time reduces drastically. And then, if your application has WIPs and WIPs, wide IPs, which you have created, and it's no longer used, it can analyze the data and give you a report saying, hey, this is not being used for the last 30 days. Do you want to delete it? Do you want to clean it up? Right? Those kind of visibility and insights is provided, and that too from a single console. The third thing here is the application delivery, automation, and orchestration, right? Automate your ADC configuration, right? As I told you, right? Anything, load balancing, DNS, WAF, everything from a single point, click of a button, right? You want to create, modify, decommission, your load balancers, your WIPs, your WAF policies, your wide IPs, IPAM, whatever it is, right? You can do it directly from AppViewX. Business process automation with ITSM integration. Now, what this means is where you have to create tickets. Now, if you go to the change management ITSM tool, you have to create a ticket. So that is also taken care by AppViewX. You fill a form, you click on submit. The next step, it goes to the ITSM, opens a ticket, change ticket, gives the implementation time. If it is approved, good. If it is approved, if it is not approved, an email goes back to you saying this was rejected by the change management, and of course there could be a reason for that, and they can enter that. So this is your automation and orchestration of all the tools from any kind of cloud, right? Like for example, the ServiceNow, Remedy, BMC, IT, any kind of ITSM tool, Jira, going to the F5 for your load balancers, DNS, WAPs, WIP, create a WIP, everything can be automated from a single point. Right. The second thing that comes here is the configuration management. Right. Now there are scenarios where you have put in your application, and then you get an information from the change management that we need to roll back. Now, generally, the load balancer teams can go into the device and do a complete device rollback. Right. That's where you lose. If the problem is in one application, you lose 2, 3, 5 applications, and then you have to reconfigure it. To reduce that time, what you can do is you can actually revert changes back to the backup configuration, but only for that specific objects. You don't really have to go and do it for multiple objects. Nothing will be affected, just that particular that you made a change, let's say today morning at 6 o'clock. You can go and change that particular object and bring it back to the previous configuration without touching any other application, right? That is the configuration management. That is any kind of drift that happens, you can manage it from AppViewX. Then there is of course an inventory management, centralized ADC management with role based access control, and of course you can manage their certificates as well. So what else can it integrate with, right? So from an enterprise network perspective, you have your application delivery, you have F5s, and then from a DevOps perspective, you have the Git, right? You have OpenShift, you have Terraform, you have Ansible, Jenkins, right? CI/CD pipelines. So AppUX can integrate with all of this. It can integrate with Git to give you a single source of truth of all your configurations, right? A single source from where everything needs to be can be stored. Then it gives you the capability to do an integration with OpenShift or an Ansible, right? And these integration can be two-way communication. When I say two-way, it is like you can have a simple form in front, fill that up, click on submit, call a Ansible playbook, right? Ansible playbook is called, and then hit of a submit, it goes to the Ansible. That Ansible playbook is played, and then configuration is passed on to the F5s. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is when your Ansible is on top of AppViewX, right? So from an Ansible, you can do a trigger to the workflow of AppViewX. So Ansible triggers it, AppViewX analyzes it, analyzes the CPU, analyzes the memory utilization at that particular point of time before pushing in the configuration. So if the CPU is high, if the memory is high, if there's some issue with the device, AppViewX will report that issue and not push the configuration at that point of time. So it gives you that level of security. All right, and then once everything is okay, it will go and push the configuration back over to the F5s. So if what we have seen is that there is almost more than 100% increase in terms of organization and modernizing the apps, right? Because there are so many applications coming in, so many demand of new applications, small applications, big application, real time application that's coming up, right? So and there is obviously an evolution of software load balancers. So basically, your load balancers are no longer on your on prem, right? It's in the cloud. So as pay as you go, and then kind of integrate with it. And there is always a problem where my devices are on prem or on the cloud, right? So all these is abstracted. You just get a single console. You manage everything that you want from there, right? So it basically provides you an orchestration and a ecosystem to control each and every component in the network. Provide you a single from layer 4 to layer 7 self-servicing capability, and then end-to-end automation capability. Now, the other thing here is the enterprise ready service orchestration. So if you see this complete diagram, this gives an overall view of what exactly it is, right? So AppUX in between, managing everything from a source control perspective, the GitLab, Bitbucket, and a lot more, right? It can control all of that out of the box. And then if you want to open an incident, right? Service request, events. So it will be a Terraform, Splunk, Jenkins, Jira, maybe a REST API on OpenShift, OpenStack, PagerDuty. It integrates with all of it. And then the technologies that you see on the right hand side, the cloud, ADC, CA, firewall, WAF, HSM, network, PAM, ITSM, it integrates with all of it to do the configuration. Now, this is an interesting chart that comes up, right? In this chart, it basically shows you, if you use AppUX, what is the percentage of automation that you use. So on the x-axis here is the automation center of excellence, like how much automation, and on the right side is your DevNetOps, how much automation, and what is the reduction in time. So if you see the blue line, the reduction in time is significant if you use AppUX as an automation platform, right? Because it provides you zero touch policy driven multi-cloud automation, orchestration and self-servicing, right? An advantage on top of the other vendors here, which is the big IQ Palo Alto, which is just device management insight and all of that. Now, enterprise automation strategy, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, we have divided it into the stages, right? To give you an understanding of what the self-servicing capability or the configuration management and app delivery and policy driven automation. How exactly will you reach that stage where everything is automated, right? You have to take baby steps and start climbing these stairs to reach a stage 4, right? So the smallest and the first big win that you can get using AppUX is a self-servicing capability. You get the device management, self-service application monitoring, discovering of the application as stage 1. Once you have the inventory ready, the stage 2 that we call it is the configuration management, right? The devices are ready, the device has a configuration, restore the configs, do a backup restore only for the objects. Then you do an automate the specific application load balancers, DNS, find the config difference, right? In my application, is there any change? Did someone do a change? Then you go to stage 3 as an app delivery automation. where you do, again, the CI/CD pipeline control, source control with Git, and you kind of move towards a better automation or more automation where everything is policy driven, right? So based on your event driven automation or a multi-vendor hybrid orchestration, cloud orchestration, get everything together, get it on AppViewX, and you do a policy driven automation. You define what and where and when the automation needs to be done. So that's pretty much from my side from a presentation perspective. I'll quickly hop on to AppUX to show you a real-time examples on how easy integrating with automation tools like Ansible, OpenShift is, and what else can you do from an AppUX perspective. So let me share my screen again. Okay. So this is AppUX. Let me log in. All right. So first thing first, the inventorization. So if you look at the device management or the inventorization management, you will see all the vendors that are, over here, the F5, Citrix, Avi, A10s and all of that, right? So you can integrate all of this and you have a centralized dashboard. I mean, this can be created on the own, but this is the real time data, right? How many devices, what are the critical devices, is there anything which is going wrong, is there anything which is going up or down? And these are, based on number of objects, application heat map, right? If your application data is going high, going low, this is an admin view, but if you are an a particular application owner, you will see the whole thing as your application view, right? So again, as I was telling you, right, from an inventorization perspective, backup and restore, right? You take a lot of backups of devices, ADCs, so you schedule those backups, and then you can do, maybe a test backups, and based on the days, you can do a daily backup or a weekly backup, and you can do a compare. This is what we were, I was trying to tell, that you can do a compare based on the object level, that is your VIPs or wide IPs, load balancers, just that object you can do a comparison, or you can do the complete device comparison. But from an application perspective, it will be the object comparison. Once you're able to do that, you are able to restore just the object. This is again, my point of getting in this, that you can do and come just the virtual server or just the LTM pool, just the profile, right? You can do a rollback of these directly from here. So if this is one of the LTM pool, just put it on the selected objects and do a restore. You really want to do a restore, where do you want to put, right? So you can do a restore for object level configurations. So that's your backup and restore. And then again, going to the workflows, right, is very simple to create workflows. You have, so for example, let's take an Ansible workflow, right? And then I'll show you the zero touch provisioning. So if you take an Ansible as an example, or any automation tool, AppUX provides you the capability of having direct integration. So if you want to integrate with the Ansible as a southbound, where AppUX triggers the playbooks, you just do an import of your playbooks. You can import these playbooks directly from here. It integrates with AppUX, get you the playbooks, right? So just you have to click on fetch playbooks. You will be able to see the playbooks that are there in the Ansible. The second aspect to this is, once the playbooks are there on the left hand side, you see these are populated from the so these are the two playbooks that are there right now, and these are the predefined playbooks. So for example, if you really want to deep dive into it, you will have to, it's very simple. It's as simple as dragging and dropping it over here. Just seeing what the what the playbook is, what we really need to do. If you want to have a form, right, you can just click over here. It's done. You can create a form over here. What exactly will the user see when they run this workflow? You can have this form ready. Just click on this. It will give you all the dependencies of this particular form, and That's it, right? It's as simple as drag and drop, pull, and then you can get your source control, and then you can also get your Ansible executor. So once you put in this Ansible executor, and very straightforward, very simple. In like couple of seconds, I am ready with my first workflow over here, right? So if you click on validate, right, my workflow is validated. It's up and running, right? I can just preview it. I can play it. It's as simple as that. You can create as many complex workflows, but the variable mapping, everything is predefined, and you don't need to spend much of the time, right? You play this, you get a form, right? This is what we decided. What is the device name? What do we need to do? That's it. And the rest is taken care by the workflows, or rather the Ansible executor going to the Ansible and playing it. Now, interestingly, what you will see is on top of it, if you have any other workflow for that matter, any workflow, let's say a WIP creation workflows, right? Any workflow which so let's say we create a F5 LTM workflow, right? So this particular workflow, you will see it has an Ansible module. It can, give you a Terraform provider. It can give you Jenkins plugins, and it can give you an OpenShift integrator. So what happens here is, let's say you have an OpenShift, right? You can pull out the configuration from here and put it in the, OpenShift executor. That's one way of doing it. The other interesting way of doing it is you basically run a workflow which is to install a plugin in the OpenShift. So if you look at the OpenShift, this is the plugin installer. So once you install this plugin, it goes and installs itself in the OpenShift, and then pulls the workflows from AppViewX over to there, right? So the trigger becomes easy, and then it is again role-based access control on AppViewX. So if you define a role that as a user or as the end consumer, I have only 5 or 10 workflows that I should be seeing. That's it, right? Your OpenShift or plugin, AppViewX plugin on OpenShift will pull those 5 uh, workflows and kind of execute it. You can just click play on the OpenShift, and these workflows will be uh, executed. Similar on those on the similar lines, if I go back again, just wanted to show you this. This is an F5 with DNS, so complicated workflows that is created over here, saying it will give you a user form, it will give you, create LTM, it will give you everything, and then you can do a executor directly from here if you want to. Or the second option that you get is zero touch provisioning on AppViewX, right? How do you get zero touch provisioning? Is as simple as this, that if you want to, let's say create a particular workflow, I'll execute the workflow and show it to you. So these are the execution workflows. From a zero touch perspective, it is as simple as giving access to these workflows to whoever really wants to do it. These workflows will actually go to the ITSM, create a ticket, again, change management approval. It goes, finds the DNS IP, it goes, creates the configuration for any ADCs, it goes push that configuration back to the devices. So, you get forms like this, very simple creative forms here, which you select your data center, select the device, what you want to do, what kind of pool it is. These are all editable. These are all highly customizable forms that you get on the devices. You can start putting your questions on the QA if you have any. I'll start taking it in a while. And oh, sorry, just sharing my screen again. Share screen. Sorry about that. All right. So these are the workflows as you can see over here. And then I will, if you go under my request, you can see all the workflows that you have created. So if you look at any workflow that I have already done to show you how a whip creation, basic whip creation is done. So you can, get a feel of it. So it's as simple as this, that you get an user input, right? User inputs all of this. Payload is generated. That's basically the configuration, if it is an F5 or if it is an scalar or any ADC for that matter. Payload is generated, the LTM whip is created, there is a review process again, a review on AppViewX, then there is a change ticket that it gets opened, then an email goes out to the user saying a change ticket is created for your, this is the change ticket. Then AppViewX keeps retrying to see the validation of that change ticket. Is it approved, is it not approved, right? Once this is done, this is the most interesting part, right, where it checks for your CPU, checks for your memory before doing any implementation. If everything is fine, only then the implementation goes ahead and you receive an email saying the configuration is successful and it is on the device. So again, zero touch. You can do all of this activity with zero touch provisioning on the devices. You don't really have to go to the devices and do any activity for that matter. Right. So this is about the zero trust provisioning, and then you see over here, if I go back to the workflows, a direct integration. I'll show you the integrations as well, right? So that would make more sense. So if you look under the integration part of it, you can have all of this integrated directly, right? Jira, Ansible Tower, Bitbucket, GitHub, Jenkins, OpenShift, all of this over here, ServiceNow. And if you see, something missing over here, you just need to add a new vendor, and it will, you can add a new vendor for that matter, any vendor which has an API connectivity or an SSH connectivity where we can integrate. You can do a direct integration to the new vendor. And the second thing, or the last thing that I wanted to show you is the GitHub integration. So the source control, right? It's as simple. You can as many GitHub integrations or GitLab or Bitbucket or Azure integrations to do a centralized platform or centralized configuration management from a particular GitHub. So if you look at this, you just need to create a connection, create a repository setup, and that's it, right? It basically integrates with all of that, and you just have to run the workflows to get your come on. You just have to run these workflows, and you have your single source of truth. So nobody can change that or do anything with it. Single source of truth for everything. All right, and last but not least is where AppUX can do a complete multi-vendor, multi-cloud integration from a single platform. So if you see over here, the last thing that I really wanted to show you is the inventory devices. If you actually see under the cloud, you can have multiple integrations with any kind of cloud. Now, there are two aspects to this, right? The first aspect is you can integrate with your AWS, Azure, GCP to do things. Or the second aspect to it is if your F5s, if your ADCs are hosted on any of the cloud or any private cloud for that matter, AppUX does not have a problem to reach out to, get the information out. The second most important thing is that if the devices are in a DMZ zone, right, or zones where the access is highly restricted, right? So AppUX puts a particular component which is actually called the southbound component. It picks that component up, puts that in the DMZ zone, and it does not have any database, right? It takes in the configuration, take of information from the F5 and pass it on to the database, and that's where it is stored. So only a single link or a single um, connection is required to do all of this. All right, so that's pretty much from my side. I will. All right, I'll take these questions. So the first question is from Michael, which says, "How can I get this video to show my team?" The team, we will be sending out these videos over to you guys, maximum within a week's time. To so that you can show this. And the second question is, how can I get more training on AppViewX workflow development? We have dedicated teams, who can do a dedicated development, and the CSMs will get in touch with you and they can set up those trainings. That's pretty straightforward. Everyone, a lot of customers are taking in training, and they are creating their own workflows with some Python knowledge and all of this. And the third question here is that, is there a repository of workflows that I can choose from or view as samples? Yes, of course. There is almost a repository of 250 to 300 workflows that are already present out of the box. All the workflows that you can see, modify, clone, change, do anything that you want. And then there is Git for AppViewX as well, where you can get all the workflows access, and you can make those changes and push it over to AppViewX and kind of run those workflows. So I hope I have answered the questions. Anyone else, any further questions, anything that you want to know, anything that you really want to we have like 4 minutes with us, so any questions, anyone, you want to know more, you want to know how we do things in a certain, or do things in a way, how can we help you as a company, please feel free to send those questions across. We can have our customer managers, custom success managers to reach out and give you a very specific, very precise demo on your own use cases that can be done, that can be arranged ASAP. So please do let me know. Again, another 2 minutes and then we can close this session. But if you have any questions, any demo requirements, anything at all, just please feel free to ping in the open questions. All right, I think there's one more question. Can AppViewX find whips with no hits, or does it find orphaned objects? It can find. So AppViewX can find the orphan objects, and there can be workflows. There can be workflows which can kind of pull in the data from the WIP traffic. So AppViewX does not sit in between the traffic and the WIP, but it sits outside. So it can pull that information out from the the ADC devices. Once that information is in AppViewX, it can say how much traffic went through in the last 1 month, or 5 days, 10 days, whatever time you define. And then you can take your call. If we can create reports out of it. Once that report is up, you can take your call if you want to decommission it or you want to keep it. So essentially the answer is yes. It can do both. It can find the orphaned objects, and it can also find whips with no hits, but then that's another workflow that can be created. Awesome. So I think we are close to the time. um, All right, so if there are no further questions, I will consider this as closed. All right, thank you everyone for joining in, and please feel free to reach out in case of any questions, any demo requirements, anything at all, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys. All right, I will be closing this session now. Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. Bye bye.